Before we continue with today's session, it is so important to do an acknowledgement of traditional lands. Royal Roads University acknowledges that the campus is located on the traditional lands of the Chaseten, the Esquimalt, and Lekwungen Songhees ancestors and families. It is with gratitude that we now learn and work here, where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. Welcome. Just to make sure everybody's in the right room today, today's webinar is on the MA in Professional Communication and the GC in Professional Communication Management. And with me today, I have Dr. Chaseten Remillard, who is an associate professor and the program head of the MAPC. So we'll call it MAPC. That's basically our MA in Professional Communication program. So get used to that when we throw around that short version of it. So MAPC. And we also have Neha Sharma, who is the MAPC program associate. My name is Emara Angus. I'm an education specialist here. And behind the scenes, we have our enrollment team. They'll introduce themselves in the chat and they'll be there to answer any of your questions today. So, agenda, get to know one another. I know that's the part of the agenda we're on right now. We're also going to go through a brief overview of the Royal Roads University experience, program information, application process, and questions throughout. Our location. So we're located in Victoria, British Columbia, which is in Canada. We are on Vancouver Island. And the closest largest cities that you can get to by ferry, so by boat, are either Vancouver, which is in Canada, or Seattle, which is in the United States, which is our neighbors. Top 3 industries in Victoria are advanced technology, tourism and hospitality, and education. And as I mentioned, we're one of the mildest climates in Canada. If it snows here, it's an absolute shock. We usually sit around 6 degrees Celsius in the winter and around 25 degrees Celsius in the summer. And I think my slides are, Chase, is that you? I see you smiling. No? Okay. My slides are possessed then. Pardon me while I just jump forward. Okay, so one of the mildest climates. And here in Victoria, you can go for hikes or bike rides or walks any day of the year. And if you're interested in surfing, it's only a few hours away and you can go surfing here on the island as well. And so here are some images of our space. The top left is Hatley Castle. We actually have a castle on campus. And this is actually a time for everybody to try out the reactions feature. Give me a thumbs up if you recognize Hatley Castle from movies such as X-Men or Deadpool. Yeah, okay, I see some thumbs up. If you haven't watched those movies recently and you plan on doing that later, give me a party emoji using the reactions feature. I think I need to rewatch those movies and really reacquaint myself with Hatley Castle. Awesome. So on the top right, you can see an image of our garden on campus. We have a beautiful garden that you can walk through if you're visiting campus for your residency or if you're on campus and need a break. It's beautiful. There's also lots of hiking trails on campus. And on the bottom left, you can see Esquimalt Lagoon, which is actually a migratory bird sanctuary. And we overlook Esquimalt Lagoon from our campus. And the bottom right image is an ode to the fact that we have been teaching and learning online for over 25 years. And so why explore Royal Roads University? We see life as a qualification here at Royal Roads University. We understand that every single person in the room today is joining us with a different background, a different career, a different goal in mind, and that's what makes it so unique. And we'll talk more about our flexible and standard admissions because we do look at you as the whole individual, and we will talk about that more with our flexible admissions, as well as profs who know your name. That's really important to us here. We get to know you quickly. You're more than just a student number. You are somebody that we want to get to know, and you'll be contributing to your cohort, and you'll really get to know the community here and learning based on life. So there's not that division between theory and practice. Like, it's all integrated. Things that you learn in the program, you can pretty much apply the very next day in your career and in the workplace. And connections for life. You will be meeting people in your cohort. And when I say cohort, I mean the people that you'll be studying with, as well as the faculty that you'll meet, that you will get to know and that you will stay in touch with for the rest of your life. They will become part of your network. And we were built differently from day one. And we're going to be talking more about that throughout today's session. We're also a Changemaker campus. So what does that mean to be a Changemaker campus? It means that it's a designation that recognizes colleges and universities that have embodied and embedded social innovation as a core value. So here at Royal Roads, we really believe in leading and empowering others to lead change that has a positive impact on the world. And now I am so pleased to welcome up Dr. Chaseten Remillard, and you'll hear me call him Chase often, and that's what many of us call him here. So welcome, Chase.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome. I've been a visitor on the Chaseten and Lekwungen territories for about 7 years now, since I came out to join Royal Roads from sunny Alberta, and I can say that as part of the Royal Roads ethos is a real focus, like Emara was saying, on the student, and I think that's what drew me to the university as a professor. And I think that's, if you ask around to people who have graduated, that's a real differentiator of our programs in comparison to other graduate and undergraduate programs, is that we really do take a focus on students, and we put a really high premium on helping people through the program and supporting them on their journeys. And so I'm just here today to give you a little bit of an overview of the program. I received my PhD from University of Calgary and in communication studies, and my area of specialty is in visual communication. So I've published on a variety of different topics. So just saying, one of them was Justin Trudeau and selfies, and working on some work now on Jason Kenney's truck that he used during his campaign. So in the program, you have people who are academics like myself, and there's another member of our school, Denise, who's in the audience today, and she's a cultural theorist. She works with museums. She has and she's really interesting work. She helped create the Troy Museum in Greece or Turkey. I can't remember. I'm bad that I can't remember if it's in Turkey or in Greece, but long story short, you have people like that, like myself and Denise, who are academics, and you also have people who are practitioners, and that's really the sort of combination that this program brings together, is that you have people who have been professional communicators for 20 years. They might have their own consultancies. They might work for government. They might work for big they might work for big marketing companies or what have you, and they're in the classroom as well, right? So we bring together that sort of strange and secret sauce of pracademics, people who both are practically minded and out to understand the strategy of communications, and also and then also people who do it every day, and who study it. So the program has two years to it, and it's called a blended program because part of the program is face-to-face and part of the program is online. And so you'll see that we have that distinction in this slide where it says intensive 1, distance 1, 2, intensive 2, distance 3. And so there's sort of a year 1 happens, you start off on campus. Well, you start off online, but at some point in that opening term, you come to campus for what we call an intensive. And in that intensive, it's 2 weeks and it's face-to-face. And you do 3 courses at that point. And so you finish off your term 1 with those 3 courses, then you go into distance 2 or 1 and 2, and then that finishes your first year. And after that first year, then you come back to campus at the beginning of your second year for your intensive 2, and then you finish your degree with a distance 3. So there's a really strong emphasis on making like positive learning community and fostering that learning community. And that's why Emara mentioned the cohort, because unlike another universities that are open and you might be able to do courses online, you're asynchronous, whereas in our program you're synchronous. Everyone comes into the program at the same time, so the 30 people that you start with program with are the 30 people that you end the program with. And that means that each of the courses that you go through and all of the assignments that you're doing it in real time with those people. And so that really fosters a sort of a strong sense of community and a strong sense of camaraderie, right? You're part of this group of people who are going through this experience together. We do offer, and this is also a unique thing about our program, is that a lot of grad programs offer thesis or they offer course-based, but we offer actually sort of a third option, which is the research paper. So there's 3 different ways that you can finish the degree and end up with the same credential. You can, if you wish, take a thesis, which means that you would take 24 program-based credits, which are sort of the core courses, which are eight core courses, and then you would have 12 credits as a thesis. You could also take and this is our default route, which is the research paper. So it's sort of the middle ground. And that's where you take 30 credits of program-based credits, and then you take 6 credits for a research paper or a research project. And that is sort of like a mini thesis in a way. You set your own agenda for that project, and you work with an academic supervisor and you do primary research, but you don't have to have a defense. You don't have to have an external examiner. And those are sort of the more formal process of a thesis. So the thesis has a little bit extra expectation in terms of length and depth of research. And it also has some formal elements to it, which is an external review. So someone outside of the university reading your thesis and a defense. But so the research project kind of gets you all that without all of the other formal elements of that thesis process. And then for people who are really keen on kind of getting the most diversity, if you like, of courses from their program, or they really like the structured format of courses, and knowing that they start a course and 10 weeks later they're going to finish it, as long as they do the work, then that's the course-based option. And there you get some options to do non-program electives. So you are essentially, instead of doing a research paper for those 6 credits, you're able to go to other programs, the School of Interdisciplinary Studies, for example, and you can pick up courses from there, or leadership or business. And that's where Neha comes in, who's our program coordinator program associate. And Neha is really the person who's there to help you get into those courses, make sure that your timeline fits, and work with you to get a completion plan, along with all kinds of other stuff that she does. But that, in terms of the pathways, that's her role, as well as mine, to give you some advice, and she's there to help you through the process. So again, unlike other universities where sort of you're admitted and then you're out on your own to figure out how you're going to finish it, we're here to help you make those decisions and help you move through that process. Neha, did you want to say hello and just sort of add anything to that?
Hi, Chase. Thank you. Yes, I would. Hello, everyone. At this point of time, I would like to share the General Studies website that all the students who choose to go for course-based options. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to what it's all about and what it would look like should you want to take that. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, looks like we're on the General Studies page.
Great. So thank you for your patience. So all the students who decide to go through course-based route, This is the website that they need to look out for. It's called the General Studies website. Here you will find different courses offered by various programs spread throughout, the university. So all you need to do is find 2 master level courses, and it doesn't matter which school it falls under, as long as you like it. Please go ahead and just send us the information. So this is what you need to do. You just need to type, if you go on Google and you type Royal Roads University and you say plus and you say General Studies, it'll bring you to this website. And here you will be able to see lots and lots. There's endless list of courses. So you can find the course that you like, including their start dates. You'll find the tuition information, the delivery format. So basically all the information that you need to mull over before you decide which course suits it the best. This is how it's going to look like. So it says you can refine your results by program, delivery, style, or the course title, or even by course date. And then once you say apply, it will list down all the information about those programs. So for example, if you're looking at something in leadership, it'll list down all the courses, regardless of what program they're in. They're up for, you can take them. It'll just list down the entire list. You can go ahead, click on it, get more information, see when that particular course is starting, what is the fee involved. There at times are some prerequisites involved. They're not really required for candidates who are internal. So if you do join MAPC program and you find a course that you really like from General Studies and you see some prerequisites, you can ignore them. And I'm sharing this information way too ahead, but I also know that a lot of prospective students, right after this webinar, they go on General Studies and then they look through the courses and they see there are prerequisites and they think that they'll not be eligible to apply for that course. So, and they are, and that's the reason why I always make it a point to make sure that you know that the prerequisites don't necessarily apply to our internal students. And once you like those courses, all you really have to do is reach out to me. Let me know which 2 courses you like, a very short purpose statement, and your updated resume, and I will take care of the rest. And it's as simple as that.
Thanks, Neha.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so those are for the non-program electives. So the core courses of our program are out of these 24 credits. So you can see that they're sort of your classic starting point for any master's in communications. Will deal with communication theory, research methods. Those are sort of the core that oftentimes start most programs. But what we offer in that first intensive, when you're getting to know everyone and you're on campus for the first time, is we offer this course called Communication and Culture and Organizations, and part of that course is a really unique opportunity that Royal Roads offers, which is called an organizational case challenge. And what happens there is that we partner with external clients, or sometimes internal, and they bring up a challenge to the students. And so, for example, we've worked with like the BC Corners Association, we worked with Rugby Canada, we worked with big organizations like that, but we've also worked with like smaller organizations, like a small restaurant that's just starting to get bigger and starting to expand, right? And they bring a challenge. They say, I have an internal communications problem, or I have a morale issue, or I have a leadership issue, or whatever it is that they may have, and it's related to the theory and practice of organizational communication. And the students like work in teams to come up with a solution for that, and then they pitch it to the client. And so it's a really great opportunity to take what you're learning in the theory and in the methods, about measurement and what are successful measurements of audience and successful measurements of outputs and so on, you kind of bring that all together in a real world case, and you work with a real world client, and you work in a team to present a solution. And it's something that really galvanizes the sort of cohort as a team. And it's also something that speaks to that mix that I was mentioning earlier between strategy and practice, and becoming purposeful, and becoming very cognizant of the fact that you're doing things for a reason, right? And a lot of you, I'm sure, are practicing right now in communications in some way, and you may know what works, but what this program hopefully gives you is the reason and a rationale of why it works, and an ability to really to explain why it works. And so after that, then there's other courses that follow on that first intensive, and these are now in like I said, in distance 1 and 2. So you're going to be doing things like sort of like a history of communications, and a discussion around digital technologies and what that's done to communications, policy and politics, and so on. So the program sort of moves forward from those core courses, and kind of fills in a variety of different sort of specialties or interest areas related to communication practice. I think I lost the ability to forward the slides, Emara, for some reason, but oh, there it is. Once you're sort of done all of that, there is the option to do program-based electives. So the thesis gets 1. I think I might have given the wrong, but the thesis gets to choose 1, and the research paper and the course base get to choose 2 of these program-based electives. And so you will be able to choose from, again, another list of courses depending on your interest. And these are then presented in intensive 2. So intensive 2 is that time where you come back on campus. It starts the second year off, and you come back and you take sort of your electives. And this is where the program sort of diverges, right? Because depending on what pathway to completion you're in, you're going to have a slightly different point from the second year onwards, right? You're going to be doing coursework. You're either going to be going into your research project, or you're going to be going into your thesis. So here are some examples of the types of things that you could take. So media production, for example, just talking about that, you might decide that you want to take media production, and you would then be learning about making films and media production from someone like Dr. Philip Vanini, who's the Canadian Research Chair in Public Ethnography, and who has, I think, 2 or 3 films that are now on like pretty much any streaming service that you want to find. One of them is I think called Into the Wild or Wild Places, and like he's a documentary filmmaker. I mean, you can't get a better coach on media production than that. Or you might decide to take something around strategic digital communications, right? So you get to make that decision, and that's again a really nice flexible component to the program, is that there is some options to take different courses throughout the program. And then the non-program electives, this is what Neha was talking about, but just to put it into sort of like broader categories, a whole bunch of different things. It could be conflict, it could be environmental. She said there's a ton of stuff. I'd like to draw your attention to one that just showed up, just because this list always gets updated and built, right? So you'll notice at the bottom of the list, there's one called Misinformation in Society. Again, Professor Hodson, Jagris Hodson developed this course. She's the Canadian Research Chair in, I think it's digital communication or online information. I can't remember exactly the title, but she developed this course, Misinformation in Society. It's going to run for the first time in May. And basically it's all about like fake news, conspiracy theories. How do these things gain traction? I'm sure she's going to be talking about propaganda, related to what's going on in the Ukraine. So this, again, the fact that you can choose a couple of courses outside of our program offerings really allows you to dig into the expertise of the university as a whole and take really innovative courses that show up like this from time, every year, or every couple of years they change out. So something to consider. And like Neha, I gave you the way to kind of look and say, okay, wow, there is a lot of stuff out here, and that might be really of interest to me. Where do you go after the program? I mean, sort of people come into the program from all of these different places, and people go out of the program to all of these places. So we have people who come in to our program who are straight from undergrad. They might really like academics and they've done an undergrad and they want to just continue, and they come into our program, but they tend to be the minority. The majority of people who come in have worked for a significant amount of time in industry, or they found themselves, and again, you could put like a hands up in the chat, they find themselves maybe not have studied in undergrad, but they find themselves in a communications role, or what they're increasingly discovering is a communications role, right? So my favorite example of that is, one of our grads, he was a spokesperson, he was the spokesperson and the media person for the Paramedics Association of Alberta. So he was a paramedic, and he just managed to he was good at communicating. So he just sort of managed over his career to become the local rep or whatever. And then he moved his way up into this position where he was sort of the official spokesperson. He came to our program. He came in on a flex admission, but he'd been doing that communication work for a while, came into our program, got his MA, then he exited that and landed a job as the chief communicator for the city of Calgary. Literally about a month before the floods of 2013. And so he managed that whole crisis, right? It's a sort of first official communications job. And then from there, now he runs his own crisis communication company. He's whenever he drops me a line, he's typically out in the middle of nowhere dealing with wildfire or whatever, right? So he's totally taken this pathway into communications from another career, taken our program, and then managed to really be able to leverage that into an entirely different space for him than he was before. And that happens all the time. So we have filmmakers who come in who then decide that they're going to go into public relations. We have people who come from public relations who then decide they're going to be filmmakers, right? So it really is a great program that way, because it gives a lot of diversity in the room. And so that's what makes working in teams really exciting. And it also gives a lot of opportunity for you to kind of explore what professional communication means to you and where you want to go. So it's hard to say where people end up, because they really truly end up in all kinds of different places. Another one of our grads, I think, went on to spend some time in the PMO's office under Trudeau. So people get really big title jobs, and people also just go back to their organizations and are able to bust through that sort of glass ceiling that credentials maybe had held them in place for. So it's an exciting program to be in, and it's really exciting place to study. I'll talk a little bit about the grad cert. So I know there might be some folks in here who are like, I'm not into getting a full degree right now. I'm not really wanting to spend that amount of time in pursuing it. I just want to be able to take a few courses. And that's really what the grad cert is all about. And so the grad cert is a 3-course combination of 3 courses that occur in the same time period as we run our intensive 2, or our the beginning of the second year for the MAs. And so you'll see that one of these courses, 633, is a core course for the MA. And every MA student that comes through will take 633, which is strategic communication. But two of them, 632 and 530, are options, right? So what happens is that you, as a grad student, go into these grad classes, and you'll be in that class likely with all of the cohort who are in the MA at that time for 633, and then sort of a subset of who's decided they want to take conflict, or who wants to take strategic digital communication. But essentially, and that's what really makes this a unique opportunity for you, if you're interested in the grad cert, is that you're actually in a graduate classroom with graduate students. You're not in some like continuing, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're not in this sort of continuing ed world with like a boundary between that expectation and what it would be like to be in the program. So what that means is that you get all the benefits of the cohort. You get to meet all these people, which is great for networking. You get to experience what it's like to take grad courses at Royal Roads, and you don't get a watered down course or a lesser version of this. You get the real deal, right? So at the end of it, the other thing that you get is that you get full credit. So you get 9 credits, 9 graduate credits that you can take and apply directly to the MA. And therefore you can, if you decide in the next year or 2 years or 3 years down the road that you are ready for the MA, well, there you go. You've already done, a fourth of the work, right? You have already completed 25% of your degree, and there's no form to fill out. There's nothing. Well, there's a form from Neha to fill out and for me to approve, but you don't see any of that. It's just automatic. You get the credits and away you go. And so it's a really great opportunity for you to put some graduate credits in the bank, so to speak, and also really get to test out what it's like to be in a grad program at Royal Roads. And I don't know, Emara, if you wanted to say your own experience with that, but I know that a lot of people who take the grad cert do go on to be very happy in the MA. They do actually decide down the road to join the MA. And again, it frees up a little bit of time for them in their schedule as an MA student, because they've taken some courses already and they know what they're getting into.
Thanks, Chase. Yeah. So to let everybody know in the room, I recently just completed the grad cert in professional communication management. I actually just got my grad cert in the mail last week. So that was really exciting to open that up. And it was a great experience. So it was 3 months and I met so many great people. And the really cool thing, like what you mentioned, Chase, the people that you were learning with, they didn't know that you were doing the grad cert versus the master's. Like people would have to ask you because you're all in the same courses at the same time during that time period. And I met people from all over Canada and the world. And I'm still in touch with a lot of the people that I met in those 3 months because you're working closely together and you're really making a lot of connections, which was really, really cool. And as you can see, I do a lot of communicating in my job. So it was definitely a fit for me, and things that I was learning in the program, I was actually able to create reports and show them to my manager and have ideas about different things that I'd like to try in the role. And part of the reports were literally part of my assignments. So that was really, really cool to be able to work on things that impact your employer and your organization, but also help you grow professionally. So it was a great program, and I'd like to do the master's. So maybe I'll be in the same cohort as some of you in the room today. So now we're going to chat about how to apply. And I did notice in the chat that there is somebody who has already applied. So that's great to see, but I will talk about how to apply. And all of this information is on the website, which makes it really easy, but I'm going to go over the admissions. So we have both standard and flexible admissions. And I wanted to mention that everything is looked at case by case. So don't worry about choosing standard or flexible. You can just submit your application and we will do that for you. So the standard admission is a completion of 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree in a relevant field from a recognized post-secondary institution, evidence of having sufficient knowledge, skills, and abilities to complete a demanding academic course of study at a master's level, and normally at least 2 years of work or volunteer experience, preferably in a leadership capacity. So that's standard. As we mentioned, we understand people in the room here might not have an undergraduate degree, but might have a lot of experience. So we'll be talking about that in flexible admissions. So applicants without an undergraduate degree, but more than 3 years of relevant post-secondary education should have at least 3 years of relevant work experience. Applicants with 2 to 3 years of relevant post-secondary education should have at least 5 years of relevant work experience in a leadership capacity. And applicants with less than 2 years of relevant post-secondary education should have at least 10 years of high-level professional communication experience in a leadership capacity. And if you're looking at this and you're going, that's a lot of words and I don't know where I fit into that, that is okay. Connect with us, reach out to our enrollment team. I know Lisa's in the chat right now, and have a conversation, because everybody's situation is different. So as I mentioned, it's assessed on a case-by-case basis. In addition, academic writing and critical thinking. So academic writing skills are required for success in this program, which makes sense. And an English composition course at a recognized post-secondary institution focused on academic writing is therefore recommended. We offer one, academic writing and critical thinking. And I popped some upcoming start dates. We have one as soon as March 21st. We have one in April, May. There's a lot. They're constant. So check out the website and you can see if this is something you're looking to do, when the next date is, and if it would work with your schedule. And we also have a language requirement, as English is the primary language of instruction at Royal Roads University. So if your primary language is not English, you must meet our English language requirement through one of 3 ways. Either holding a recognized credential from an English-speaking country, submitting an official English language proficiency test report, or completing one of our Global Learning and Language Center programs. So how to apply? All of this is on the website, because I know this is a lot of information, but what we've done is on the website created a really easy way that you can look and you can see all the different things you need to do when you're applying. So it's really easy. It's just as easy as check, I've done that, next. So you want to start by doing an online application, and it costs around $128 and some change to start up your application. And then once you do that, there's some supporting documents, because we really want to get to know you more and see the full picture. So we do require things like official transcripts. So what that means is any previous post-secondary education or certificates or diplomas, we do ask that you send them to us, and you can either do that by having it mailed directly from the institution that you are taking those courses or programs at, or you can also have that institution email it to us, but it just needs to be in a sealed envelope, either from the institution or by email. We also ask that you submit a detailed resume. So this would have more detail than, say, a resume that you would use to apply for a job. It's something like where we want to just really get to know you. And we've listed on our website, I know Lisa will pop that in the chat, like all the different things we want to know about you. Like, what kind of work experience do you have? Do you have any awards that you've received? Any memberships or associations that you're part of? Like, just the whole picture. And in addition, a personal statement, also known as a statement of intent, and that's really your why. And when I applied to the grad cert, which wasn't that long ago, I applied last year, that was my favorite part of the application, is my personal statement, because it actually made me sit down and reflect on why I wanted to take this program. And not only that, it made me reflect on all the things I've done up until this moment that makes me feel like I'm ready to take this program and where I want to go with it, and my hone in on my why. So that was pretty powerful for me. And then we also need 2 letters of reference. And a bit of a pro tip, I would recommend writing your personal statement first and then sharing it with the people that you ask for the letters of reference. So then they can understand your why and they can speak to that while they're writing your letters of reference. So some key dates also all on our website, and we keep our website completely up to date with these dates. So if you're looking for the upcoming start date in May, so for the MAPC program, the MA in Professional Communication, you will need to apply pretty soon if you haven't yet. The application deadline is April 2nd, 2022. If you're looking to start in the fall, the intake starts September 26, 2022, and the application deadline is June 26, 2022. If you're looking for the grad cert in Professional Communication Management, the start date for the next intake is May 16th, 2022, and the application deadline is April 16th, 2022. I should also mention that you don't have to wait for the application deadline to apply. You can apply right now. So I know deadlines are good to have, but if you're ready to go and you have everything you need, apply now. Don't wait for the deadline, because we do look at them as they come in. And we understand here that education can be a big investment, a very worthy investment, but a big investment. So we do have a whole financial aid and award office to help you navigate what this looks like for you. So now is a good time to start thinking about financial aid and awards. You can connect and book an appointment with the financial aid and awards specialist. You can check out our website that they have, and they talk about the different loans and awards and scholarships and other funding that's available. And we also have application support for you. We understand this is a big decision. So our enrollment advisors are here to help you. I know Lisa's already helping answer questions in the chat. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about if this program is the right fit for you or what program would be. And if you have any other questions. And here are their contact information. So if you're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you can reach out to learn.more@royalroads.ca. And if you are an international citizen or a temporary resident, you can reach out to learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. Now we're going to jump into questions. So I know that we've been answering questions as we go. I haven't been monitoring the chat for the last few minutes here, so I might have missed some questions. But I want to pose a question to Chase right now about the cohort. I know that's a question we get a lot. And if you could just talk a bit more about what does the cohort look like? What does like a residency look like? If you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, so typically I would say our cohorts are about 30 people. And so like I had mentioned before, those 30 people have found their ways, however, highways and byways to the MA, and they might be somewhere probably average age is sort of late 30s, mid 40s. So they're sort of mid-career. There are obviously some folks that are a little bit older and some folks that are younger. And the intensives, when you come to campus, are you're there. A lot of folks stay on campus. They have campus housing that's available for you. Some people stay like in a local hotel close, or they might have relatives, right? But every day you come to campus, you're there pretty much for a full like day. And you're meeting with your group because you're working on the OrgCom challenge, or you're in class. Maybe you're in class with me. I teach the methods course, for example, or Yasser, he teaches the methods course, right? So maybe you're in classroom with one of us, or then another prof doing theory, and then, right? So it's back to, it's back to university days, right? And then at night, you're probably going, I don't know, for some libations, some cool beverages, maybe a bite to eat with the cohort, and then working on projects and that during the evening. And so, that those 2 weeks, that's why we call it an intensive, because it's sort of like it's a all encompassing type experience. And because of that, you really become close to those people. I mean, I don't know, because I can only say by proxy, but you can see that people really foment like strong relationships between themselves and not everyone in the cohort. I mean, we're all, we're humans. You're gonna have people who you like more than others, but definitely there's gonna be like a solid group of people who you really have a strong connection with. And then when you're done that, you don't leave those people. That's the other really great thing, right? Is that you might then go, and then you go into distance one and you're taking, 540, and you're learning about the history of communications and, what's the public sphere and how has digital communications changed that, but you're with the same people, right? So all of those conversations that you had, with Dr. Buckland in theory, or in, or me in methods, now that history follows you as you go into the next course, right? And so that helps you be motivated to complete your work. Like there's something that happens that's a positive kind of peer pressure to stay in, like, on time and moving forward, right? Because people will literally reach out to you and be like, hey, you can do this. And again, I only know that from talking to grads or talking to alums. They oftentimes say, somebody, I was having a really hard time, my kid was sick, my job was really stressful, and my group reached out to me and they're like, listen, here's the plan, right? And get to it. And so that really is a really strong value of collective sort of experience, and a really strong community that the program builds and fosters. And it helps give us a really high completion rate. Like, that's again kind of a bit of a technical term for universities, a bit of a jargon, but we have a very high completion rate. Like, most grad programs are sort of 60% completion rate. There's about 40% attrition that occurs in a grad program, which means that 40% of the people don't finish on time or at all. Our completion rate, I don't know, I would have to guess is probably 85 plus, just because we really work with people to get through the program, and you have that collective, like, just force to keep going, right? And so it's not a, like, at a distance experience. It's different than getting your books in the mail and having to do all this on your own. I don't know if that answered your question, Emara, but
Yeah, it did. Thank you for sharing that. It's always good to hear more about what the experience is like. So I have another question in the chat, whereas does it matter how long of a gap there is between the certificate and then if you choose to go for the master's?
No, I mean, that's a great thing about education, right? Is nobody can take away your education. And so one of the things that we do, when we develop a course, for example, we have to go to the registrar and we have to say, is this number available? I want to offer a course and I want to use PCOM 642. And they'll go back in the books and they'll say, actually, 642 was used 10 years ago for a course that we no longer offer. And so I only share that with you because the program may change. Like 5 years from now, will we have a course called Strategic Digital Communication? It might be something different in 5 years, but that the registrar goes back and says, well, that course existed, here's what that course was. And then the program head at the time would say, okay, well, that course we don't offer anymore, but it looks a lot like this course. And so, yes, right? And so those credits will stand because we have a record of what we've offered in the past. So the quick answer is there is no expiry date on those credits. They're there as long as Royal Roads is offering degrees.
Thank you. And so another question I have here is, for those balancing earning the MAPC while working, raising a family, etc., how long on average would you say it would take to complete the credential?
2 years. Who asked that? Sonia? If you come in, Sonia, you will go out in 2 years. The only reason why that wouldn't happen, and it does, is maybe you've had like a pretty significant life change, right? Like, it oftentimes is health related. And so we do have people who who get into a car accident and then they suffer like the effects of a concussion for 6 months, right? And so they have to like step away for 6 months. So that does happen, right? Or a family member gets sick, or they have to move because of employment, right? But if you're like, if everything is as it is and you come into the program and sort of everything stays stable, right? We've managed through the pandemic to get pretty much everyone through on time, which has to have been the most disruptive period in the last 100 years, right? So the other thing that happens sometimes is that the thesis is a bit hard for people to finish on time, like perfectly on time, because there's, you know, that's why the thesis is a little bit less. There's an unknowable piece to the thesis, which is, are you going to be able to find those people to interview? You know, how long will the external examiner take to get back to you, right? So there's these factors that are part of the thesis that are a little bit unknown because they're out of our control. But even in those cases, we're, you know, I would say that's only like 10% of the thesis that get delayed, and they only get delayed maybe by months, not typically any more than that. So yeah, I can say with complete confidence that if you come in, you will likely finish on time, like highly likely finish on time with your cohort, and you'll be at convocation with all those people you started the program with in pretty, you know, whatever it is 2 months and a couple, or 2 years and a couple of months, you know, whenever the convocation runs. So yeah, don't worry, we got you. That's kind of the message.
Yeah, when like in my cohort, there's a lot of people with families and we're working full time. When I did the grad cert, I was also working full time in this role that I'm in right now. So there's absolutely life happens while you're going to school and doing your program. It doesn't go on pause when you're in the program. So another question we have is, in the case that you're talking about, Chase, where someone has to put their studies on pause, has there been examples of people coming back?
Oh yeah. I mean, Neha sees these people come back all the time, and sometimes they come back like years later. You know, they have something significant happen to them. It might be health related, and they go through their treatment. And they're better now. They're in a position where physically and mentally they can handle the work, and they come back and they complete. And you know, and again, that's the one thing that's really powerful about education, is that nobody really can take away what you've learned, right? Like it's like it's yours, right? Like you own it, right? So it's just, we're there to facilitate you on that journey. So yeah, it definitely, and there's a ton of support. You know, we didn't mention it, but you know, beyond Neha, like she's sort of the bridge to like the larger university support network, which is really fantastic. I have to say, you know, being a student at other universities, Royal Roads has a very special support network that I think is different. You know, and it's through student services, and there's career counseling, there's actual like psychological counseling, there's academic counseling, there's writing counseling, there's time management, right? There's all kinds of things that are there, and there's all kinds of degrees of like support that can come in beyond just you stepping away. There's extensions that can be put in, there's accommodations that can be made, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can be supported through difficult times without you just completely stepping away and having to come back, right? That's like the most extreme of it. There's all kinds of middle ground in there, and there's all kinds of resources dedicated to making sure people get through it.
I have another question, and it's around the thesis. And Chase, you mentioned the thesis earlier, but can you talk a little bit more about it, in particular, how long, like topic selection and those kinds of things? And if you could even share an example of a student thesis, that'd be really cool to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, the thesis for me is, you know, that's kind of my jam. I love the thesis. You know, I'm an academic, so I enjoy research. And, you know, I do dabble in practice, but, you know, at the end of the day, I really enjoy being a supervisor. And I know that's the case for our other faculty members. So the thesis is a great option for people who have sort of like like a central burning question, right? Like you might not know that you have that question yet. You might just be coming in and being like, I'm just coming in I'm just doing the course based and that's what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden something happens, and it happens for sort of a subset of students. It's sort of I would say, again, it's sort of maybe somewhere between 15 and 20% of the students that they sort of have this like aha moment. It usually happens in the first term, where that intensive period where they're like, yeah, I've kind of wondered about that for a long time. And I just can't see how doing a 5-page paper on this is going to satisfy me. I just need to know more. Like I need to, and they go into the next course and they're like, why am I researching this again? Like I'm back on this topic again, even though I'm in another course, I'm back on this topic again. And so for those people that sort of have this, like this really core curiosity, that for whatever reason it comes to them, that's a great route for the thesis. And so the thesis allows you basically to step away from any coursework after your second intensive. So you come back, you have a session, you have a class with your cohorts, you can be like, hey, I'm on campus, and you all kind of have your last hurrah together. But then you step away and you and your supervisor are working on your thesis together. And when I say you and your supervisor, your supervisor is there to kind of throw you a lifeline, but really like it's you're out there swimming on your own and they're in the boat, right? So that's the thesis, is that it's independent study, it's your design, it's your question, and it's your journey. And so you typically have a timeline where you sort of start proposal process, because we ask you to declare which kind of route that you want to go in sort of about after 2 distance courses. So you do your intensive, you have a couple of courses, and then at that point we sort of say, okay, you've kind of had 5, you've had 5 courses under your belt. You should sort of know whether or not you want to be thesis, research paper, or course based at this time. So we ask you to declare which pathway you want to go. And if you're a thesis, then we start the process of writing a proposal, which is in, we have a whole course devoted to it in 630. If your thesis, that's what you're doing, is you're building your proposal. We partner you with a thesis supervisor, and then the next, then you basically sort of have about 8 months to complete it. And the length of the thesis I don't want to really speak to, because it's sort of variable, but it usually is around sort of 50-60 pages of research, like at the end of it. But at that point, it's never about the length. Like I've never supervised someone who's like said, man, I'm just really having a hard time filling this out. Like I just can't get to, the page limit, right? The page limit doesn't really matter at that point, because you have a lot of things to say, right? And so an example of this, I'll give you 2 examples. One, Megan Reimer, who she came in previously and kind of joined one of our sessions. She spoke of the fact that she was a career professional. She came to get a credential, and then this kind of light bulb went off, and she was really motivated about communication around like mental health. And she never expected to do a thesis. She didn't plan to do a thesis, and she started that journey towards a thesis, and now she's actually going on and wanting to do a PhD. So she went from being like totally practical, this is just about getting a better job, to now saying, I actually want to be an academic. I have, another thesis is a student worked for BC, I think it's BC Transit. They wanted to know about Twitter and positioning of BC Transit on Twitter. So that was what they did their thesis on. And in doing that, they got to meet the president of BC Transit, and they made all these connections, and they actually then pivoted over to, like, I think the Surrey Health office, and now they're working there. So their thesis really was all about getting an understanding of a phenomenon and a better understanding of strategic use of social media as a crisis tool, and then that had a direct application for them in their career, right? So those, I think, are kind of two different. Also did a thesis where someone cut a film, like a short documentary film, and then wrote a supplement to that, and it was about dumpster diving, right? And it was like totally disconnected to to any kind of professional practice. So there's really a big range of opportunities for what you can do in the thesis.
Thank you so much. I popped a link in the chat about Megan as well. Royal Roads just published an article about what she did for her thesis, and she actually came to our last webinar and talked about her experience. So I will share that link out as well in the follow-up email, which is really cool. Megan is a great person, and really, it's great to relate to her. I wanted to mention, we went over time because we got so caught up on different things. So Chase, do you have any final words to the people in the room today that you'd like to share?
I would just say, if you want to do a degree and you say to yourself, I don't know if I have the time, or I don't know if it's the right time for me, or I don't know if I don't know if I'm the right person to do it. Like, I don't know if I have the chops or whatever. I would just say do it, because it's sort of like getting married. It's sort of like having kids. It's sort of like any of these other decisions that you make along your life that are big decisions like that. There's never really a perfect time, and if it's important to you, you will get it done, and it will be beneficial for you. I've not met anyone who's come through the program who says, I really regret going into the MA, right? Or, nobody says that. What they say is it was hard, or it was funner than I expected, or it was different than I expected, but I'm sure happy that I did it, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'm really keen on where it's going to take me. Like, I have not heard anyone say, I regret doing it. And that's from people who have all kinds of stuff going on. And so I would just say, if it's important to you and you're ready to do it, just jump in and go for it.
Thank you. I feel like you're talking directly to me as well. I think it's time.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much today for joining us. Thank you, Chase, Neha. Thank you to our faculty here. Thank you to Lisa. And if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to support. And I'll be sending out this recording by email later on today or tomorrow. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day today. Take care.